Hi, I'm Femi OK. Dozens of Mexican politicians have been killed and many others threatened with the same ahead of July's general election. What, if anything, can be done to ensure their safety and security? That's today on the stream. We're live right now on Al Jazeera and YouTube. You can leave your comments in the chat and I will do my very best to get them into this conversation.
Hi, I'm Christian Wiesnes. I'm the director of NRC in Colombia and you're in the stream.
There have been at least 173 attacks against Mexican political candidates since election season began in September. Mexico's general election is scheduled for July the 1st, and the violence has happened primarily in provincial areas far away from the country's political center. Authorities have confirmed the deaths of at least 30 candidates, but the Reuters news agency reports at least 82 politicians have been killed, making this one of the bloodiest election cycles in recent history. The attacks are a reminder of the intense violence that has gripped Mexico for the past 12 years, with some political analysts pointing the finger at rival drug cartels who hope to maintain their power networks no matter who ends up in the national palace. Some candidates have vowed to continue their campaigns despite the threats to their lives, and the stream is fortunate to be joined now via Skype by two candidates doing just that. Mario Alberto Chavez Cabajal is running for president in the municipality of Eduardo Neri in Guerrero State. And in Mexico City, Nestora Salgado is a former community security organizer now running for a seat in Guerrero State Senate. And also joining us, we have David Sperling, who will be interpreting the conversation between myself, Mario and Nestora. Welcome, all of you. It's good to have you here. Mario, I want you to give people a sense of what's happened to you while you've been campaigning. How many times have you been threatened?
Hi, hello, how are you all? My name is Mario Alberto Chavez Carvajal. I am the New Alliance Party candidate for mayor in Eduardo Neri, and in the capital of the state of Guerrero, Chilpancingo. There was an attempt on my life 15 days ago. When I was in my vehicle, I was driving, and there were armed gunmen who cut me off, and 3 people were wounded. They were members of our security team, or of our team. We are in Eduardo Neri. What we want is security, peace, and tranquility. That's what we're trying to bring about. It's very dangerous there. We want to work on behalf of Guerrero, our state, our municipality, and particularly, I have to tell you that there's been 3 attempts on us thus far.
Yes.
And this month, in May, there was just 2. One is being investigated. There was against my vehicle, I was charged, and there was another one as well.
Mario. What I'm thinking, and what the audience must also be thinking, is why are you running if it's so dangerous?
I must answer that I asked the people, the team at the municipality, and they told me that we should continue in this struggle, that we have to work, and that we have to convince everyone to change things in the municipal capital. There's just too much violence lately. And the reason for continue is that we're being asked to. People want us to. They know we are in danger, but they know that we can try to achieve this. We can bring about change with... I'm not alone. There's a lot of us that want this. Many people want peace in Guerrero, and we want peace particularly in our municipality of Eduardo Neri.
Maria, I am looking right now at your Facebook page and I can see pictures of you campaigning. I am wondering, what precautions are you taking as you campaign to keep yourself safe?
Okay. Firstly, I want to tell you that I haven't been campaigning. I'm not yet campaigning. We start the campaign on the 20th of May. That's the official start. Currently, what we're doing right now, we're just visiting friends, greeting people. We haven't officially or formally began the campaign. But people take care of us. The people told us to run. The people want a change. We want a change in our municipality. The people are in charge of taking care of us, of guarding us and protecting us, and they urge us and spur us forward to continue to try to become mayor of our municipality of Eduardo Neri.
I want to bring Nestora into the conversation. Nestora, I'm going to bring you into the conversation via a comment from another political candidate. I want you to have a listen to Alejandro del Toro.
Creo que dentro del contexto de violencia que hemos vivido en México por muchos años, también nos han enseñado a tenerle miedo a la política. A que la política significa que nos puede pasar algo, que nos van a perseguir, que hasta incluso nos pueden matar. Y por eso para mí es muy importante, además de cuidarnos, porque hay que cuidarnos, el hacerlo no con miedo, sino con alegría, al descubrir que la política también se puede tener futuro, se puede tener esperanza y que eso es lo mínimo que nos merecemos.
Alejandro there talks about fear turning into hope. What is your current mood? And that question is for Nestora.
Y esa pregunta es para Nestora. ¿Cómo se siente ahora? ¿Qué ánimo tiene ahora? ¿Se está escuchando, Nestora?
Hola.
Sí.
Oh, la pregunta es para mí, perdón.
Para usted, sí.
Ok. Mire.
Yes, the question's for me? Oh, good. We have a conviction that we believe in our candidate's project. We do have these threats, but we do have hope, too, for change. We are publicly filing a complaint and denouncing the threats that we have in our state. We are currently calling on, appealing to the authorities whose job it is to deal with this, and we are calling on the authorities. They are obligated to provide security to us. We have to work. We are taking part in this, and the people are asking us to do this. This is a hope that the people have, and we're being called upon by the people to do this. The authorities have to do so, and they have to provide security to us. We are issuing an appeal and issuing a public denunciation to not be ignored, and that we have to be protected from anything that happens. Authorities have to take precautions as well as ourselves. I, for one, in the state, what we're doing is we're asking for support from the community police who to guard us together with the security that's provided by the government, the state government. We're going to all work together, and we're not going to be intimidated. We're not going to be terrorized. That's what they're trying to do. We're not going to move aside. From the very beginning, when my candidacy was announced, they left a dog head at my door in my town with threats, calling me up on the phone and saying that they were waiting for me to behead me. And they have sowed terror throughout the state. A lot of people have entered into this panic mode, but I am going to set an example that we're not going to allow this to happen. We will not be terrorized. There's a lot of us. And we said, peace doesn't come alone. We have to build it together. And this is an appeal to the entire population, to the entire country, for all of us who are attentive to where our eyes are fixed on this, as well as the candidate of the President of the Republic, as well as state-level and local candidates. We're all watching this closely.
Nestora, I want to share some of the pictures of you campaigning. I've taken them from your Facebook page. There's a picture here where you're campaigning. This is Nestora right here, in case you can't see her. I'm going to go a little bit closer so you can see her here. What you're asking is for security, more security. We've heard the stories about you being threatened, your life being threatened. Alexei here on Twitter says the following. There are 128 senators, 500 diputados, 8 governors, 200,809 presidents municipals, so presidents of municipals, and 30 states at play. There is no way to protect everybody. What would you say to that? You can't protect everybody.
Claro que sí.
Of course.
Claro que pueden.
Yes, they can protect everybody, and they have the duty to do so. If they have police officers, they have the army is standing there doing nothing on the streets. I believe they can protect us. They can protect candidates, all of them. And if they can't, they must say so. And we, the people ourselves, will do so. We, as community police officers in our state, when I was the coordinator, I know from that position that we can do it. The problem is that the government doesn't provide security and we're attacked. And they have a system in place that represses us and puts us down. And so they answered me when I called for security that they were going to provide security, that whatever happens is the responsibility of the government, and it's in the hands of the government. If the government says that it cannot provide security to us, then we will use the people to provide security. It depends on what they said. They told me they were going to provide security when I went in January. Right now, I have been in other states here in the Mexican Republic and here in Mexico City as well. But I'm going to be leaving on the 16th of May to begin officially my campaign in Guerrero State with campaign events. And the government knows that I will be there. If it doesn't do its job, it's its responsibility. And yes, they can provide security to us. We can be, because we are aware. We know how they operate and in these states.
Okay, so Mario and Nestora, what I wanted to say was thank you for being here on the stream, and we wish you a very safe election campaign until July the 1st. We will be checking in with you just after the elections to see how you did. Thank you for joining us on the stream. So joining us to help us explain further just how precarious the situation in Mexico has been since September, when election season began, Jose Marino is a political scientist working for the Center for Economic Research and Teaching. He joins us from Mexico City. And also in Mexico City, we have Andalucia Noel, who is a journalist who routinely covers the violence happening throughout the country. So Jose, as you were listening to those two politicians talking about their everyday dangers, this is their campaign life. What was the first thought that came to your mind as you were hearing that? Are they unique?
Well,
is it special? Did we find two unusual cases?
Well, no. I mean, violence against local authorities has been happening for a long time now. This is probably the most violent election that we have lived so far. So no, they are not anomalies. They are part of a pattern that has been going on for the last 11 years.
So we often talk about violence in Mexico, Andalucia, and I often ask you, so what do we do about this? When it was the first candidate debate, so this was back in April, some of the candidates were asked, well, what are you going to do about this violence, this upsurge in violence during this campaign season? John Holman was the reporter, and this was how he captured that little bit of a question that was asked back in April. Have a listen, everybody.
The first presidential debate was the chance for candidates to say exactly how they'll stop the killing. The country was looking on. It may have been disappointed. Bullets were brandished. Graphs were held aloft. But beneath the posturing, analysts said that fresh ideas were lacking. The one brand new one, this.
We need to chop the hand off any public servants who steal. It's not a bad thing.
Andalucia, have you heard any practical solutions to how you actually deal with this? I'm not sure chopping hands off is going to be helpful.
No, but I actually did want to respond to the part, I mean, I think some people could think it's a joke. When I was watching the debate and I heard Jaime Rodriguez, who's El Bronco, who's an independent candidate, who's actually believed that he had many false signatures that allowed him to become an independent candidate, but there he is. The following day in Acapulco, Guerrero, the state where both Mario and Nestora are from, a person was killed and had their hands chopped off, and there was a note that was like, oh, we're following after what El Bronco says. This is a lesson he gives, so that to show that the what he recommended for curing the problem of violence, actually people started using that recommendation. I think that it's a much deeper analysis is needed, and the problem isn't so much the violence against the candidates, which of course is an enormous problem, but also Mexico is one of the top countries in the world for murders of journalists, politicians, mayors, and priests, and there is complete impunity in all of these cases. So I think personally that one of the most important things is to eliminate impunity, which is up to over 95% in the country, and that is why violence is also on the rise. Last year we had the highest homicide rate in many decades. That was close to 30,000 people that were murdered last year. And so since there is just complete impunity, and also a lot of this violence occurs on the nation's highways that are in very isolated areas, often where there's not even phone service. That is where these candidates are being attacked, and that is where many ordinary people are being attacked. So I think it's important to eliminate and attack the impunity, and that would also attack impunity for all of the actors that are engaged in these violent activities against candidates.
Jose, Amahart, he's live on YouTube right now. We're live streaming right now. Amahart says, what is being done right now about the violence?
Well, not much. I mean, this government followed the same strategy as the previous one, which is a war, that's how they frame it, against drug trafficking. So a result of that war is actually what we're witnessing, and that's the level of violence we have today. As a policy for reduction of violence, no, there's no such a thing currently. There is one proposal from the front-runner candidate, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, in terms of peace building, like a big, comprehensive process of peace building in the country that actually is directed more to reducing violence than to continuing the same punitive strategy that we have witnessed so far.
Going back to Twitter and Alexei here, Alexei says the rise of violence has a great impact on the democracy for the communities. This type of violence denied for many people access to compete for office. They're scared off, they're afraid of getting killed, which then goes to PPTSOTR. On YouTube, he says, what is the general Mexican population's attitude towards the politicians who are murdered? I'm just thinking about that, Andalusia. Does this have an impact on
I mean, I think
people?
Sadly,
with Reuters saying, I mean, 82 in a campaign, and we're not even close to July yet. That's extraordinary, is it not?
Right. This is the highest level of violence in the elections that we have seen, and sadly, it has become very normalized. Actually, what has helped visualize this was one study that was done that put those numbers together. But when you actually go and try to look for more information on many of these candidates, that even the ones that have been killed, you often only find a few lines in local newspapers. If it makes national headlines, it's also a few lines. There's no, it's just seen as normal. I mean, I think this is a lot of the violence in Mexico has become normalized. You know, just 2 days ago, 9 people were found dead in a trailer right outside the capital of Guerrero. And I looked for that information, and it was also mostly in local newspapers and just a little in national. But I think the problem is that people have become so normalized to the violence, and also many are thinking that there is a very close connection between many political candidates and organized crime. So I think also others think that there's always this belief that if you are killed in Mexico, it's because you are responsible for your own death, and therefore you were doing something wrong. Whereas it is possible that some of these candidates that have been attacked or killed do have connections with organized crime, or it's also possible that many of them have refused to work with organized crime, and that's also why they're receiving attacks.
Yes, Jose.
I'm sorry. I agree with Andalusia, but I don't think we have proof enough of those connections. I mean, there are two things. One, I don't think violence has become normalized in Mexico, but if you are a media outlet, you cannot have, every single occurrence of violence in the country for the last 12 years. So at some point, it just stopped being news, unfortunately. But also, on the other hand, I've seen a different process, which is, for the first time in a campaign election, violence is at the center of the campaign of the election, and it has become a topic. That didn't happen in 2006, and that didn't happen in 2012. Second, you have to understand the media environment, and Andalusia, I'm sure, knows it better than me. But local papers have not many mechanisms to defend themselves from threats, from organized crime, or from those authorities that are complicit with organized crime. So the only option they have is just to stop publishing any information about violence, drug trafficking, drug production. And in the case of national outlets, one, they have never really cared that much about the violence issue, except for a couple. And two, out of all the national newspapers, only one could survive without government money. So that also affected the set of incentives that these media, especially printed newspapers, have to present and publish information on this regard. So I don't think, like, I mean, I refuse to believe that violence has become normal in Mexico. I mean, of course, I'm very comfortably sitting here downtown Mexico City, and I'm not in the, in the areas that are...
Jose, but did you not just hear those two politicians who were talking about the dead dog, the threats, they're being driven off the road? You don't think that's now normalized?
I don't understand what your question is. Like, whether we perceive it as something normal?
Or whether that's every day now, that's part of everyday life.
Oh, it is part of everyday life.
Right.
But
that's not normal.
I don't think we have become indifferent.
Right.
About it.
I see what you're saying.
Actually, what I see in this election particularly, and I think is the most important thing, is that now you see a sort of cohesive movement of victims who have become part of the national conversation. I'm talking about the mothers of missing young males, mostly. I'm talking about local organizations that have worked on human rights issues, and now they have the support of national organizations as well. So for the first time, we're witnessing a movement from civil society up, and this topic, homicides, disappearances, are now a central topic in the election for the first time, and rightly so.
Jose and Andalusia, let me play this to you. I was wondering, we were talking about what's the impact and what's being done, and I was curious about the role of the church. This is Father Jesus Mendoza. He's a Catholic priest in Guerrero. This is what he told Reuters a couple of weeks ago. Have a listen.
Alguna vez entró un grupo armado.
An armed group walked in once. There were like 15 of them, I think. They were in the middle of a conflict and showed up in the middle of Mass. I told them, step aside. They waited, and at the end, they asked me to give them my blessing. I told them to put the weapons away. With guns, there is no blessing.
Andalusia, this is a complicated problem with the church and the Catholic Church. Are they working with criminals or against them? Are they reprimanding them? Are they a possible way to see how we can keep politicians safe all the way through to the end of the election campaign?
Sure, it's a complicated issue. As I mentioned, that it's the same as that there are candidates that do have connections with organized crime, but there also are many that don't. It's the same with priests, and actually it's a number that I myself have tried to find, is how many priests have been assassinated in Mexico, which is much higher than most countries of the world, but have not been able to find that statistic. But I think often there are priests like the one who's speaking, there are ones who are speaking out against the violence, who have helped some of these organizations that Jose mentioned, that have helped the families of the disappeared come together, as is the case in Iguala, Guerrero, which is where the 43 students were disappeared 3.5 years ago, or have really been the only place that have been willing to respond to many citizens' complaints about violence when they have fear of going to the police. So I often think that its priests come under attack, not because they're working with organized crime, but because they are helping those who are victims of organized crime.
I understand. All right, so Jose and Andalusia, I'm going to say thank you. I really appreciate your insight today, and also to Mario and Nestora for being on a little bit earlier, and also David for making me sound like I'm fluent in Spanish. I appreciate that, David. I'm going to end here with Carlos Brito Verified. Carlos is running for mayor in Jojutla, and he talks about fear. And he says fear is natural and even healthy. All the people that make up the team, together with the one I contend with, have been direct victims of the violence, such as kidnappings and murders. If we are here, it is not because we believe it is easy, but because it is necessary. That is a local candidate for mayor in Mexico. I wish you all a successful and safe campaign. Thank you, guests, for being with us. We continue our conversation always online. #AJStream. See you next time.